This is Josiah Plays Dear Esther, Landmark Edition. I don't know anything about this game, or perhaps it's not even properly speaking a game, this interactive narrative experience. I've just heard that it's really good, and that it's very short, and that it's peaceful and doesn't involve any fighting or anything. It's more of a walking simulator slash exploration of a story type of deal, so I'm looking forward to checking it out. Apparently it's a very, very short game, so I plan to just play through it all right now in one sitting, in one go, in one episode. So let's start it up and see what it has for us. Do I want director's commentary? No, not for the first time.
Dear Esther, I sometimes feel as if I've given birth to this island. Somewhere between the longitude and latitude, a split opened up, and it beached remotely here. No matter how hard I correlate, it remains a singularity. An alpha point in my life that refuses all hypothesis. I return each time leaving fresh markers that I hope, in the full glare of my hopelessness, will have blossomed into fresh insight in the interim.
I already unlocked an achievement. Did I manage to die? Did I manage to drown myself right out the gate? Alright, so I can zoom in with right click or left click. I can move around with WASD. Watch out for the water. But there's no jumping, apparently. So I guess I'm just walking around looking for things to trigger bits of story. There's a big lighthouse here. Oh, I just automatically turned a flashlight on. Dear Esther, I found a bucket. Dear Esther, it looks like no one has cleaned this toilet in a very long time. A very long time. I mean, I don't know if I'm supposed to push any buttons or anything. There's a picture. Food and Goods Convention. Like, I see things that look like I could conceivably interact with them, but I suspect there's going to be like a context-sensitive type of thing that pops up whenever there's something that I can actually do something with. This is sort of strange. Well, there's not a lot going on in here. Oh, that's a staircase going up, but it is broken off right here so that I can't get up there. This looks like it should be like a thing. There's no jumping, though, so I don't have to, like, jump over there and explore those rocks or anything. You can just go where you can go. It's an awful lot of paint cans. Looks like it would be cold. So now I can go up the hill or along the path down below. Let's go down below first. Maybe I should go up the hill first. I'm gonna go up the hill first. Can't walk up this.
Donnelly reported the legend of the hermit, a holy man who sought solitude in its most pure form. Allegedly, he rode here from the mainland in a boat without a bottom, so all the creatures of the sea could rise at night to converse with him. How disappointed he must have been with their chatter. Perhaps now, when all that haunts the ocean is the rubbish dumped from the tankers, he'd find more peace. They say he threw his arms wide in a valley on the south side, and the cliff opened up to provide him shelter. They say he died of fever 116 years later. The shepherds left gifts for him at the mouth of the cave, but Donnelly records they never claimed to have seen him. I have visited the cave and I have left my gifts, but like them, I appear to be an unworthy subject of his solitude.
We'll turn that up a little bit. The gifts of paint cans! The hermit's like, thanks. Thanks, pilgrims. Flashlight? How about that flashlight? How's that flashlight coming along? Apparently, we just like stumbling through a dark cave in the dark. Well, this is as far as we can go. Thanks, pilgrims. Coke bottle delivered from on high. Well, we can't go any further this direction. I can't turn my flashlight on. I guess we're going down here. We got some rocks. It seems like a rocky road indeed. If I scream here, no one would hear me.
There was once talk of a wind farm out here, away from the rage and the intolerance of the masses. The sea, they said, is too rough for the turbines to stand. They clearly never came here to experience the becalming for themselves. Personally, I would have supported it. Turbines would be a fitting contemporary refuge for a hermit. The revolution and the permanence.
Turbines. Do you think I should go this way or down the beach first? Now I'm kind of thinking down the beach. I'm gonna do a lot of backtracking in this game because I'm a weirdo like that. I like that there's a narrator and I don't have to... Oh. See, now this is intriguing. And I don't have to do a lot of reading out loud. See, there's things of strangeness here. This symbol, that stuff that was painted on the wall in the little house. What am I supposed to learn from this? I wish I could take pictures of these things.
Dear Esther, I found myself to be as featureless as this ocean, as shallow and unoccupied as this bay, a listless wreck without identification. My rocks are these bones, and a careful fence to keep the precipice at bay. Shot through me caves, my forehead a mount. This aerial will transmit into me so. All overexposed, the nervous system, where Donnelly's boots and yours and mine still trample. I will carry a torch for you. I will leave it at the foot of my headstone. You will need it for the tunnels that carry me under.
I mean, I'm not gonna lie. I kind of have no idea what our narrator is talking about right now. Old tires, wheels, a car door. What happened here? This doesn't look like a safe driving area. Well, that way lies death. Still don't understand what this thing means. Seems like there should be more things to actually do with the oddities. Yeah. Like take a picture, jot a sketch of it down in my journal or something.
The mount is clearly the focal point of this landscape. It almost appears so well placed as to be artificial. I find myself easily slipping into the delusional state of ascribing purpose, deliberate motive to everything here. Was this island formed during the moment of impact? When we were torn loose from our moorings and the seatbelts cut motorway lanes into our chests and shoulders, did it first break surface then?
Literally, what is this dude talking about? WASD to march around and the mouse to look at things. You can't do anything else. Okay.
When someone had died or was dying, or was so ill they gave up what little hope they could sacrifice, they cut parallel lines into the cliff, exposing the white chalk beneath. You could see them from the mainland or the fishing boats, and know to send aid or impose a cordon of protection, and wait a generation until whatever pestilence stalked the cliff paths died along with its hosts. My lines are just for this, to keep any would-be rescuers at bay. The infection is not simply of the flesh.
I see. Those are the lines cut. Could be suicide simulator. If I... Barbed wire. Excuse me. A graveyard of sorts.
We are not like Lot's wife, you and I. We feel no particular need to turn back. There's nothing to be seen if we did. No tired old man parting the cliffs with his arms. No gifts or Bibles laid out on the sand for the taking. No tides turning or the shrieking gulls overhead. The bones of the hermit are no longer laid out for the taking. I have stolen them away to the guts of this island, where the passages all run to black, and where we can light each other's faces by their strange luminescence.
So am I following in the footsteps of the person who wrote these letters? Like, am I playing Esther, who's received these letters and has now come to investigate the island? Or am I the guy who's actually writing the letters to Esther? This is the mystery we face so far. I really want to get up there, though. But I have a feeling it's not going to happen. At least not just by going straight up the hill like this. Why are all these barbed wire fences here? Now I'm going back down. But there's a fence up there.
Dear Esther, I met Paul. I made my own little pilgrimage. My Damascus, a small semi-detached on the outskirts of Wolverhampton. We drank coffee in his kitchen and tried to connect to one another. Although he knew I hadn't come in search of an apology, reason or retribution, he still spiraled in panic, thrown high and lucid by his own dented bonnet. Responsibility had made him old. Like us, he'd already passed beyond any conceivable boundary of life.
Do you hear a heartbeat? And maybe a radio?
I threw my arms wide and the cliff opened out before me, making this rough home. I transferred my belongings from the bothy on the mount and tried to live here instead. It was cold at night, and the sea lapped at the entrance at high tide. To climb the peak, I must first venture even deeper into the veins of the island, where the signals are blocked altogether. Only then will I understand them, when I stand on the summit and they flow into me, uncorrupted.
More paint. Man, this is weird. Oh, now you want to use the flashlight. I don't know what's going on. More paint. Interesting painted symbols. But what are they? What does it mean? This looks like chemistry. Is it science? Is it spirituality? Is it madness? Is it all of the above? Well, I don't think I'm getting across there.
Come back. I dreamt I stood in the center of the sun, and the solar radiation cooked my heart from the inside. My teeth will curl, and my fingernails fall off into my pockets like loose change. If I could stomach, I'd eat, but all I seem capable of is salt water. Were the livestock still here, I could turn feral and gorge. I'm as emaciated as a body on a slab, opened up for a premature source of death. I've rowed to this island in a heart without a bottom, all the bacteria of my gut rising up to sing to me.
So, this guy was sick and he came here to die? What do we have to say about these stones, narrator? Because we got us some standing stones here. Some pillars, one might say. Round the pillar, ugh! Narrator doesn't have much to say about the pillars, I guess. Oh, that's where the car door and the tires and stuff were. I still don't understand what happened with the car. Achievement unlocked.
Dear Esther, I have now driven the stretch of the M5 between Exeter and Bristol over 21 times. But although I have all the reports and all the witnesses, and have cross-referenced them within a millimetre using my Ordnance Survey maps, I simply cannot find the location. You'd think there would be marks to serve as some evidence. It's somewhere between the turn-off for Sanford and the welcome brake services, but although I can always see it in my rear-view mirror, I have as yet been unable to pull ashore.
What was he looking for? He must be searching for invisible cows, Knox. Yeah. This whole game is about the search for the secret cow level. Rumored to be somewhere on this island. Wrecked ship. Flashing buoy out there.
All night the boy has kept me lucid. I sat when I was at the very edge of despair, when I thought I would never unlock the secret of the island. I sat at the edge and I watched the idiot boy blink through the night. He's mute and he's retarded, and he has no thought in his metal head but to blink each wave and each minute aside until the morning comes and renders him blind as well as deaf mute. In many ways, we have much in common.
That's a lot of anthropomorphization of a buoy. Does that say... Neither did he eat nor drink, but what is the first word? Is it and? And neither did he eat nor drink? What happened to this ship? Cargo containers. No commentary on the giant ass shipwreck, huh? Narrator. More paint. Spray enamel. Why so much paint? Repossession advice. A lot of fences. They're very defensive on this island. Okay, this is where I came from.
I had kidney stones, and you visited me in the hospital. After the operation, when I was still half submerged in anesthetic, your outline and your speech both blurred. Now my stones have grown into an island and made their escape, and you have been rendered opaque by the car of a drunk.
Rendered opaque? Does that mean she was killed by a drunk driver? Presuming that he's still writing to Esther all this time. Is he writing letters to a dead woman? This is a giant kidney stone made man. Here we go with some more of his nonsense.
There must be a hole in the bottom of the boat. How else could new hermits have arrived?
More nonsense. What does any of it mean? What does it mean?
When I first looked into the shaft, I swear I felt the stones in my stomach shift in recognition. Come back.
Okay, no jumping in the shaft apparently. Wait. I just got an achievement for that. Did I just end up on the other side? Hey, there's a house. Oh, this just leads back. What?
I've begun to climb, away from the sea and towards the center. It is a straight line to the summit, where the evening begins to coil around the aerial and squeeze the signals into early silence. The bothy squats against the mount to avoid the gaze of the aerial. I too will creep under the island like an animal and approach it from the northern shore.
I don't know what a bothy is. Or an aerial. So... A bothy is a basic shelter, usually left unlocked and available for anyone to use free of charge. There's also a term for basic accommodation, usually for gardeners or other workers on an estate. Bothies are to be found in remote mountainous areas of Scotland, Northern England, Northern Ireland, and Wales. Aerial's another term for antenna. That's what the...
bothy was constructed originally in the early 1700s. By then, shepherding had formalized into a career. The first habitual shepherd was a man called Jakobsen, from a lineage of migratory Scandinavians. He was not considered a man of breeding by the mainlanders. He came here every summer whilst building the bothy, hoping eventually that becoming a man of property would secure him a wife and a lineage. Donnelly records that it did not. He caught some disease from his malcontented goats and died 2 years after completing it. There was no one to carve white lines into the cliff for him, either.
Malcontented goats? Hashtag malcontented goats. So he became a scapegoat, says Knox. No! Oh shit! I've made a mistake.
He left his body to the medical school and was duly opened out for a crowd of students 21 days after his passing. The report is included in my edition of his book. The syphilis had torn through his guts like a drunk driver, scrambling his organs like eggs on a plate. But enough definition remained for a cursory examination, and, as I suspected, they found clear evidence of kidney stones. He's likely to have spent the last years of his life in considerable pain. Perhaps this is the root of his laudanum habit. Although its use makes him an unreliable witness, I find myself increasingly drawn into his orbit.
Who is he talking about? I feel like he's not still talking about the goat guy. I feel like I skipped some shit by kind of like falling down here. More crazy symbology. What does it mean? What does it mean? A small cairn of stones. What does any of it mean? More paint.
Inventory. A trestle table we spread wallpaper on in our first home. A folding chair. I laughed at you for bringing camping in the lakes. I was uncomfortable later and you laughed then. This diary, the bed with the broken springs. Once asleep you have to remember not to dream. A change of clothes, Donnelly's book, stolen from Edinburgh Library on the way here. I will burn them all on the last morning and make an aerial of my own. I'm so lost.
I feel such a lack of context. Perfectly safe path. Even with some steps. So the barbed wire fences are to keep the malcontented goats from wandering off.
They found Jakobsen in early spring. The thaw had only just come. Even though he'd been dead nearly 7 months, his body had been frozen right down to the nerves and had not even begun to decompose. He'd struggled halfway down the cliff path, perhaps looking for some lost goat, or perhaps in a delirium, and expired, curled into a claw right under the winter moon. Even the animals shunned his corpse. The mainlanders thought to bring it home unlucky. Donnelly claims they dragged it to the caves to thaw out and rot, but he is proving an unreliable witness.
Malcontented goats. Malcontented, diseased goats. Don't want them wandering off. That's an urn. Somebody's ashes in it. The hell? Why is there a construction cone? Or a road cone? Going for a swim.
Come back.
More ships crashed. An older ship. Hey, Splode, how you doing? Good to see ya. We're experiencing Dear Esther.
Climbing down to the caves, I slipped and fell and have injured my leg. I think the femur is broken. It is clearly infected. The skin has turned a bright, tight pink, and the pain is crashing in on waves, winter tides against my shoreline, drowning out the ache of my stones. I struggled back to the bothy to rest, but it has become clear that there is only one way this is likely to end. The medical supplies I looted from the trawler have suddenly found their purpose. They will keep me lucid for my final ascent.
I wonder if we're getting these journal entries out of order. Like, if we're kind of like going back in time as opposed to forward in time as we originally sort of seemed. Alright, I can go that way. Or I can go into the cave. This kind of looks like the way that I'm supposed to go forward, though. This is a very strange game, if you can call it that. We're trying to uncover a story here, but it's in little bits and pieces, and it's very out of context and hard to understand so far. And the only thing you can do in this game is walk around and look at things. Like, you can't. And you can zoom a little bit. That's it. That's what you can do. You can't pick anything up. You can't examine anything directly. You can't click on anything. I can't even turn my own flashlight on and off. It comes on and off automatically when it wants to. It's a sentient flashlight. It has a will of its own. Yeah, I think it's similar to Gone Home. Did you already vote in the poll, Splode? You were here for the poll voting, right? Then there's parts where it's kind of dark like this, but still no flashlight. You did, alright. For anyone who hasn't voted in the poll, for more games that we're going to play during January, the month of playing games with no combat in them, there's the poll. Feel free to vote for one or more games. This is a cool looking cave. Well, we just got an achievement. Jacobson.
From here, this last time, I have understood there is no turning back. The torch is failing along with my resolve. can hear the singing of the sea creatures from the passages above me, and they are promising the return of the gulls.
Oh, we're in some cool caves now. So that's not my flashlight. That must be the flashlight of the person who came before. Hadn't heard about a lot of those games though. Yeah, those are all games that either like I had gifted to me or I won or like I bought for like $1 or 2 or 3 tops at different times, and I never played any of them. Yeah, all those old point and clicks. There's a lot of point and clicks out there. Leisure Suit Larry series, yeah. We're not probably going to do that one. This cave is cool. I would like to find a cave like this in real life. Pour myself some more Coke Zero here real quick. Dear Esther is like a point and click, but without the pointing or the clicking. Point and W.
They'd stop the traffic back as far as the Sandford Junction and come up the hard shoulder like radio signals from another star. It took 21 minutes for them to arrive. I watched Paul time it to the second on his watch.
Like, what is he even talking about? And there's more of these weird symbols and stuff that he's drawn. Like... that whoever has painted. We're finding these all over the place. What do they mean? Some of them look like chemistry. Others of them look like electrical engineering schematics. Others look like some sort of tribal spiritual stuff. Yeah, yeah, it looks like a circuit board. How are these candles still lit? We keep finding these things all over the island. And we don't know why. This is beautiful, though. Wow. I feel like we won't get an explanation. Yeah, well, we'll see. Each playthrough you get slightly different snippets of audio and narration. Oh, I don't like that. Why would you play through this another time? Like, say you didn't know that. After you walk through this one environment once, why would you be like, well, let's do that again? That does look pretty dangerous, yeah.
I am traveling through my own body, following the line of infection from the shattered femur towards the heart. I swallow fistfuls of painkillers to stay lucid. In my delirium, I see the twin lights of the moon and the Ariel shining to me through the rocks.
These caves are fucking sweet, but... Achievement unlocked, Man of the Rocks. Okay, so we know there was a hermit on this island, and then there was people that kind of came and left offerings for the hermit, some kind of pilgrimage stuff, and then there was the guy with the malcontented goats that he got a disease from and he died. We think that this guy's friend or wife, Esther, that he was writing to, died in a car crash with a drunk driver. We've just got all these little pieces of disconnected shit that don't make a ton of sense so far. Maybe this is the start of the last pilgrimage. Like an allegory for purgatory or such. I don't know. Maybe one of these walls will teach you a dragon shout. Just makes sense. I mean, these caves are a lot cooler than any fucking caves that were in Skyrim or any other game I can think of like this, but there's just not... It just doesn't make sense so far. There's these little narrative pieces, but there's not enough pieces to put together into a whole. And what does it have to do with the island? What does it have to do with the malcontented goats?
This is a drowned man's face, reflected in the moonlit waters. It can only be a dead shepherd who has come to drunk drive you home.
This is cool. Dude, I would live in these caves. I'm not gonna lie. I would fucking live in these caves. Behold, Damascus is taken? Is that what it says? Painting intensifies. This guy used up a lot of paint. Well, we're looking that up. Book of Acts 22. This is when Paul was defending himself. This is where he's telling the story of how God struck him blind on the road to Damascus. So this is a pretty famous part of the New Testament. This is where he basically got converted. Or he's telling the story to the Hebrew council or whatever. Okay. Would have been hilarious if that led to the story of Samson. Oh my god. Samson. What does that say? I think it says Damascus is taken again. Don't know what that means exactly. So much paint. Glow-in-the-dark paint. Away from being a city. Damascus is taken away from being a city? And it shall be a ruinous heap. That's from the book of Isaiah. It's a prophecy from the Old Testament. It says Damascus will no longer be a city, but will become a heap of ruins. He's a scientist and a Bible scholar. Look at these little glowy gewgaws. pretty fucking cool. Whoop, down we go. Oh, is this where the traffic accident happened? Where Esther was killed? On the road to Damascus. Not literal Damascus, of course, but on the road to figurative Damascus. Killed by a drunk shepherd. No, we're not going to get any audio narration here. I feel like I'm playing a Terrence Malick movie. Achievement unlocked, Esther. Bruce Wayne would be jealous, right? The moon looks amazing.
I sat here and watched two jets carve parallel white lines into the sky. They charted their course, and I followed them for 21 minutes until they turned off near Sanford and were lost. If I were a gull, I would abandon my nest and join them. I would starve my brain of oxygen and suffer delusions of transcendence. I would tear the bottom from my boat and sail across the motorways until I reached this island once again. Well, so much for that. Come back.
There's a lot of lights around. Who lit these candles?
Dear Esther, I find each step harder and heavier. I drag Donnelly's corpse on my back across these rocks, and all I hear are his whispers of guilt, his reminders, his burnt letters, his neatly folded clothes. He tells me I was not drunk at all.
Oh, the narrator was the drunk driver. They didn't get into an accident with another drunk driver hitting them. He was the one that was driving and got her killed. Maybe. What is all this painted stuff? Oh, the car door, the wheels, everything we saw from before, it's from the car of the accident. He brought the whole car here. Maybe. It was like enshrined it.
Paul, by the roadside, by the exit for Damascus, all ticking and cooled, all feathers and remorse, all of these signals routed like traffic through the circuit diagrams of our guts, those badly written boats torn bottomless in the swells, washing us forever ashore.
Says around him, shown around him, from heaven shone around him, light from heaven shone around him. I think that's part of the part where Paul is seeing Jesus on the road to Damascus too, when he's struck blind. The white lines. As you say, the white lines.
From here, I can see my armada. I collected all the letters I'd ever meant to send to you, if I'd have ever made it to the mainland, but had instead collected at the bottom of my rucksack, and I spread them out along the lost beach. Then I took each and every one, and I folded them into boats. I folded you into the creases, and then, as the sun was setting, I set the fleet to sail. Shattered into 21 pieces, I consigned you to the Atlantic, and I sat here until I'd watched all of you sink.
So maybe it was her ashes that he put into the boats, and we saw the urn earlier with some ashes that still were blowing out of it in the wind, maybe. And he put her ashes into the little boats. Hey Moz, how you doing? Welcome. No, it doesn't have any survival element. It doesn't have any element whatsoever. It has no element other than what you see right here. Walking around and looking at stuff. Eggs. On a sudden, a light from heaven shone around him, and he fell to the ground. Time to kill ourselves again.
Come back.
I guess we have to go up there. This game is truly a walking simulator. Honestly, calling it a game is not even really... It's not really a game. It's a semi-interactive narrative experience, I guess. Semi-narrative. I mean, you get all these little tiny scraps of story, disconnected, spread out, hard to understand. It's had some really cool environments, though. Like those caves that we went through were amazing. These are the best caves I've ever seen in a game.
A sound of torn metal, teeth running over the edge of the rocks, a moon that casts a signal as I lay pinned beside you, the ticking of the cooling engine, and the calling from a great height, all my mind as a bypass.
I have not yet tried the long dark. Got it on a big Steam sale. Takes 6 to 8 playthroughs to get all of the audio logs. Oh, fuck that. Honestly, fuck those developers then.
I've begun my voyage in a paper boat without a bottom. I will fly to the moon in it. I've been folded along a crease in time, a weakness in the sheet of life. Now you've settled on the opposite side of the paper to me. I can see your traces in the ink that soaks through the fiber, the pulped vegetation. When we become waterlogged and the cage disintegrates, we will intermingle. When this paper aeroplane leaves the cliff edge and carves parallel vapor trails in the dark, we will come together.
So I think he came here to kill himself. Dude, there's no way. Who the fuck wants to slowly walk through a walking simulator 8 times to get the whole story? Why would you even do that? And as he was proceeding on his journey, how about they give me an optional mode of get the whole story from one playthrough mode? And was come near to Damascus. Neither did he eat nor drink.
If only Donnelly had experienced this, he would have realized he was his own shoreline, as am I. Just as I am becoming this island, so he became his syphilis, retreating into the burning synapses, the stones, the infection.
He was 3 days without sight, and he didn't eat or drink. Yep. So it makes sense now, all the places where you thought you should have had some narration but there wasn't any, it's because there is. You just don't get it in the same playthrough. No, I don't like that. If I hadn't known that...
reflected in these retinas. Too long in the tunnels of my island without a bottom. The sea creatures have risen to the surface, but the gulls are not here to carry them back to their nests. I've become fixed, open and staring, an eye turned on itself. I've become an infected leg whose tracking lines form a perfect map of the junctions of the M5. I will take the exit at mid-thigh and plummet to my Esther.
I think if I hadn't known that, I would have a much higher impression of this at the end. As it is now, I'm just sort of irritated that 6 to 8 times. Motherfuckers be crazy. And it came to pass as I made my journey. It's like an eye. shit. Yeah, that's Paul telling his story.
Blind with panic, deaf with the roar of the caged traffic, hard stopped on the road to Damascus, Paul sat at the roadside hunched up like a gull, like a bloody gull. As useless and as doomed as a syphilitic cartographer, a dying goat herd, an infected leg, a kidney stone, blocking the traffic bound for Sanford and Exeter. He was not drunk, Esther. He was not drunk at all. All his roads and his tunnels and his paths led inevitably to this moment of impact. This is not a recorded natural condition. He should not be sat there with his chemicals and his circuit diagrams. He should not be sat there at all.
So was he drunk or wasn't he?
Out of places to climb. I will abandon this body and take to the air. Dear Esther, I have burnt my belongings, my books, this death certificate. Mine will be written all across this island. Who was Jakobsen? Who remembers him? Donnelly has written of him, but who was Donnelly? Who remembers him? I have painted, carved, hewn, scored into this space all that I could draw from him. There will be another to these shores to remember me. I will rise from the ocean like an island without bottom, come together like a stone, become an aerial, a beacon, that they will not forget you. We've always been drawn here. One day the gulls will return and nest in our bones and our history. I will look to my left and see Esther Donnelly flying beside me. I will look to my right and see Paul Jakobsen flying beside me. They will leave white lines carved into the air to reach the mainland, where help will be sent.
A whole new world. Apparently he learned how to fly. Okay. Well, that's Dear Esther. It was very artful, but my complaint is that they didn't give you enough pieces of the story to piece everything together. I mean, it was too sparse and chopped up, and then, you know, that would be my complaint. But then finding out that there's actually way the fuck more of this of the story, but you have to go through it multiple times to get it, and that's just irritating. That's no bueno. They're just deliberately wasting your time at that point. Causes a lack of coherency and forces the player to draw their own conclusions, as well as making the game replayable. Replayable is supposed to be about being able to make different decisions or do something differently. You can't do anything differently in this. I mean, it was pretty good for what it was. But I don't want to go through it a bunch more times. I want to turn on everything in one mode. What happens if I hit resume? It just starts me at the beginning of the last section. Well, that was Dear Esther. Pretty interesting experience. I feel like they had some great visuals and sound and everything, but it was in service of kind of a blah story, or at least blah with as much of it as we got. I don't mind the idea of a walking simulator type game where all you do is walk around and experience a story and explore an environment. That's actually fine with me. I wouldn't mind more games like that. But I would want them to be more interesting than this. Or at least more complete than this. So that's it for now. If you're watching the stream, don't go anywhere because I am not done playing. The first day of January stream continues. But that's going to do it for this episode. This single episode playthrough of Dear Esther. Thanks for watching. This has been Josiah Plays Dear Esther Landmark Edition.